Here we are. Phillies win 2 out of 3 over the weekend against the New York Yankees. I would say it was a solid weekend up in the Bronx, certainly Friday and Saturday. The Phillies swung the bats pretty well, got some decent starting pitching. And then yesterday, again, it's like this team is allergic to winning 3 consecutive games. They get out early. Zach Wheeler was not Zach Wheeler. Well, it certainly was not Zach Wheeler in the second inning. They lose 4-3. They had some opportunities in the middle of the game to maybe take the lead. They couldn't do it. And look, you take a step back and you say it was a pretty good weekend. But out west in the Phillies' house of horrors that they can never seem to win in, the Mets sweep the San Francisco Giants. And all of a sudden, the Mets are red hot and lead the East by a game and a half. So that is like the asterisk for me for the weekend. And I know you think the Mets blow and it doesn't matter, and that's fine. You might be right. But like I look up at the standings, I don't like having a nice weekend and saying, oh, damn, they lost ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's going to happen, right? That there's the other team's going to get hot, and you're just plodding along, winning your 2 out of 3. I mean, the Phillies won a series against both Boston and the Yankees and lost ground. Like it's sometimes you just can't. You got to tip your hat. Hey, Mets, good job. You've won 7 straight. That's made the difference here. It's not anything that the Phillies particularly did wrong, because you can't sit there and expect the Phillies to win 6 in a row against the Red Sox and Yankees. So in a sense, you go, okay, that happened. But now you look at what's coming up. The Mets, they're not going to win every game. They got to go out there. They now travel to San Diego, play a much better team in the Padres. And the Phillies go to Chicago to play the stinky White Sox. You should probably make the ground back up here in the next few days. So
I really would just like to see, look, we always say it, it's like a mantra. Most baseball people agree. It's something we've said on this show numerous times, but it's hard to sweep. It's certainly hard to sweep a decent team. I know they're missing Judge, but, throw in the fact that they're on the road, no less. But then this week, you look at it, and the White Sox actually had a little fight for the Cubs this past weekend. We obviously know they're a dreadful team, but they hung in and they played some competitive baseball. But this is a team that the Phillies, I would like to see sweep. Whether or not that's realistic, I don't know. But it's time for this team to really get hot and really string together some wins. And at some point, you're going to have to sweep a team to do it. And I guess the one thing I will kind of like go back to as I'm looking at this. You take 4 out of 6 against the Red Sox and Yankees any day of the week. You always would sign up for that. There's no way you wouldn't. But isn't it fair to be a little bit agitated with these guys out of the break in that they're letting winnable games go? You get out of the break on last Friday against the Angels, and you get the lead, and Luzardo implodes. And Luzardo implodes a second time against the Red Sox. And then yesterday, you get a lead, and your dude's on the mound. And Zach Wheeler hasn't been like the Zach Wheeler that you'd expect the last 2 or 3 times out. And you're thinking, like, let's get this one. Like, we got our guy. We got Real Muto in the lineup. They went for it yesterday with that lineup, I thought, for the most part. Like, come on, man. Like, they're letting winnable games go here. And
yeah, I get it. But I can also argue back that they've gotten a little bit fortunate too, right? I mean, you look at that first game against Boston last Friday, they got away with one there, right?
Last Monday. Yeah, last Monday.
Or last Monday, rather. Yes, they got away with one there. And that's so those things happen as well. So I do think that those kind of level out where you probably had a game that you should have lost that you win versus a game that you could have won that you lost. And I think that those, on the whole, over the course of a season, with maybe 1 or 2, going one way or the other, they kind of level out over 162. So, yeah, I mean, in the moment, sure. Like, you look at that game yesterday and you go, man, they should have won that game. They really should have won that game. I mean, yeah, 3 solo home runs. That's how you get your 3 runs, and they couldn't manufacture at least one more to kind of get back into it and see what would happen late. Right. And so like that. So yeah, that's the frustration, of course. But I think that they've also had their share of, well, that was a one that we had to sweat through, but still got the win, and a win is a win no matter how you get it.
I think you're right. I guess it's like you just go back, and they have not won 3 consecutive games since June 18th. Through the 20th. And I believe that came in a crossover between the Marlins and Rockies. And it's like that they have this magnetic pull right now to this 13 to 16 games over 500 pocket. And it's like, Hey, I think the Phillies are good. I don't think, I'll just repeat what I've said a million times here. I don't think right now they're a World Series team. If things happen this week, maybe that changes. But at the same time, we're looking now at basically a 2-month run where they have been a 500 team. And I would just like to see them separate from that a little bit. I'm not saying they got to win every game. I'm not saying they should have gone 6-0 this past week. But now with the White Sox coming, it's like, all right, guys, it's time. I'd like to see them make that run up ahead of the deadline and really start to separate, where even if the Mets play them competitively and they don't win the East, which I still think should be the goal, and I do think having a playoff bye should be the goal, but at least start to separate from that dreck in the bottom half of this wild card race and say, like, we are a playoff team. And if we have a bad week, we'll be able to withstand it.
Yeah. And Sean Crowley says, unfortunately, the Phillies have had about 15 games this year where they lose by 1 or 2 runs. You're not going to win every game, but you have to win at least half of those. He follows up with sometimes they just don't throw the hammer down. Hopefully these games don't come back and haunt them. I don't think they'll haunt them. I think that the Phillies are – I know what you're saying, Bob, and I agree with you. I mean, but I look at the National League race right now, and I know the Reds are still a game out. Like they're still hanging in there, and we'll see what they do at the deadline. They could get interesting if they decide to really improve, but it's a 7-team race for 6 spots. And I just don't think the Phillies are going to plummet out of one of the top 5. I really don't. Right. And so they're going to be there come October. But you're right. I mean, you want to win the division. You want to get the bye. You don't want to have to play a 3-game series, because the one thing about, the wild card, I know that they've had a lot of success in the past. But you look at the teams that they've played in the wild card in previous years, 22 and 23, the Cardinals and the Marlins, the team that you're going to end up playing this year in the wild card, they're going to be as good as you are. Like all these teams have the same record, right? I mean, the top 5 teams are within 2 games of each other. So if you're the 4-5 seed and you're playing the Cubs or the Brewers, let's just say it's probably one of them, like, why are you confident in that series in a best of 3 just because you've won wild card series in the past? Like, I don't like that. Like, I think that this is a year you got to go out and win the division. So and you're right in that regard. Let's go out and get some of these games that that you haven't been able to get to this point.